I don't know guys, I understand that this squad have come a long way now, but at this point it's like they're attempting to capture a sense of scope that is far too big for them to even begin to develop. The songs are undeniably well written, but as a collective whole the tracks blend into one another, beginning to seem like a sluggish effort that lacks any musical tension that ties it together, or at the very least makes each track impactful and deeply moving. The most that I can do is listen to a somber chord progression or ride those rigid grooves. Anyways, enough about that national album, let's talk about Injury Reserve. After the Arizona trio finished flossing in the dentist office, they're set to finally record their debut studio album, and given that it's named after themselves, I get the impression that this is meant to be the definitive set of songs that represent who Injury Reserve are. What are they all about? And so because they're Injury Reserve, you'll get smart-assed, hard-clattering bangers, and on the other side of the seesaw, somber tracks soaked in enough melancholy to want to sample the Silver Mount Zion. Richie with a T and Stepper J Groggs are accompanied by some of the most eclectic and hectic beats to date, thanks to Parker Corey, from the metallic kitchen cutlery draw smattering of Karuna and Lime, to the subdued spittling marimba notes of Jawbreaker that Rico Nasty somehow manages to find a means of flowing over as if it was just another Kenny Beats joint. The MIDI-esque piano on Gravy and Biscuits just sounds like something Dre would have done on 2001, with a hook that I wouldn't mind singing drunkenly with my friends when it comes on the next squad barbecue. The second half sees the most sobering, somber beats bring us back down to earthly reality once again. Wax On pinging like a submarine radar, What a Year It's Been exploding into a cathartic Kanye-esque breakdown complete with vocoder in the background, and New Hawaii even being the much needed escape from all the chaos, like taking a lonely walk outside to catch a breath for once. Of course, once the trio managed to get all their grievances and personal conflictions off their chest, the roll of tape sounds like it's ready to fast forward to a triumphant finish, a victory fanfare sourced sexily by free-spirited saxophones on the blessed three-man weave, where Richie proudly claims that the group are achieving that three-man weave though. It's an ecstatic moment to end such a constantly shifting journey, sounding just as conflicted as the MCs are on the inside. It becomes clear that Injury Reserve wear their influences on their arms like snap bracelets, and you know what? Those things look cool as fuck anyways. It's not like their fusion of ideas sounds exactly like a particular artist that I could name off the top of my head. In fact, this album is Injury Reserve defined as an idiosyncratic group with plenty of things to say, be it punchliney smack talk or self-serious DMCs. And that's ultimately what makes this something I can't stop returning to, that not one track sounds like another and each one has its own story to tell. You're smacked with fresh whip Tokyo Drift chatter on Jailbreak the Tesla, and smacked even harder with Cakes to Killer's frustrated and standoffish spittage on GTFU. But what is more impactful to me is the payoff on What a Year It's Been. Stepper delivers his story about persevering through depression and the subsequent alcoholism, and he breathes each word with pauses, as if he's been on a long, patience-testing tramp and only on his last words, which makes the explosive crest of the song even more powerful, as it genuinely feels like a sudden discovery of hope, just out of nowhere when you least expect it, and it pushes you further in pursuit of a brighter future, which in turn makes Three-Man Weave even more moving as a reassuring conclusion to this part of their journey. Elsewhere, Richie has some fed-up words for preachy rappers who claim to be the saviors of conscious talk, while later on he reflects from the responses from fans that find strength in the group's willingness to be vulnerable and open about themselves, encouraging the fans never to underestimate themselves. And yet in the same conversation with himself, he is extremely critical about the way that he writes the grief that's been eating at him into music, wondering if it's exploitative or a genuine source of closure for himself. It reminds me of one of the standout tracks from Saba's album last year, Calligraphy, where he pondered upon the act of writing his worries into song, solely to resolve nobody's troubles except his own. Also, this album has extra points for posing interludes that also double as total dick and ball bangers. I know QWERTY's meant to sound like the CD in the Tesla car skipping, but the flow on that track is still so laid back and cool, and it puts me at ease after the Sonic Mayhem prior. It just sounds like a great song regardless. And of course, Rap Song Tutorial is unbelievably creative. It has to be the track that I've played the most from this whole thing, which surprises me, but pulling apart a simple hip-hop track and layering it step by step is such a simple idea in hindsight, but the execution just seems smart. And the thing is, it's also just a really good song by the end of it. I love watching those videos like Rhythm Roulette, where producers just on the spot make even only a little snippet of something cool, and this is a fun, condensed version of that. Actually, watch the live reaction to this song and watch the guy in the front. That's exactly how I was moving to this shit. I suppose that also leads into the other important thing to remember. Injury Reserve are certainly an emotionally honest group, but they're also one of the most fun ones to listen to as well. And what makes this album such a blast is that they sound bravely pointed towards a new sound on every song, each one with its own distinct flavour of Injury Reserve spread across like a good old colour spectrum, or even just a time lapse of the sky. I actually imagine this album starting in the evening and then slowly getting closer to midnight, with New Hawaii being that 3 AM deep talk, and Three Man Weave being the sunrise that gives birth to a fresh new day. I've cracked the code! I've done it! The code has been cracketh. I can't really hold it back anymore. This album is special. It's an 8 out of 10, and one of those ones that's so bulky and heavy that it just won't budge. It just stays in its place. That's what I'm talking about.